Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I've got my new friend Doug here, and I just met him a few minutes ago. And he's from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I used to live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is, really something. I met someone here just a couple of weeks ago that actually worked at the same theater that I worked at back in the 1980s. So,
wow.
Small world. So,
Yeah.
have you been in New Mexico like most of your life, or just?
Actually, I grew up kind of all over I lived all over the Four Corners area.
Yeah.
So I've lived in New Mexico, Colorado,
I love it out there.
Utah, and Arizona.
Where in Utah?
Utah, Salt Lake City for the longest time, yeah.
Well, I lived in St. George for 15 years.
Okay, yeah. I was actually talking to my cousin whose dad's is in St. George yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So do you miss the Southwest at all? Because I loved it out there. I mean, I really like that
I
part
do
of
and
the
I
country.
don't. I mean, it's home, definitely. I'm a desert kid. So I think that's why I love it when it rains here so much.
Yeah.
You learn to appreciate rain when you grow up in the desert.
Yeah.
I miss it because that's what I was used to, but I also don't just because that is what I was used to. I came here for new experiences. So maybe I'll miss it more later. It's only been about 4 months, so.
So you've decided you're staying here. You're living here. This is it for you.
That's the plan for now. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And of course, you've got a disability. You're blind.
I am blind.
Have you been blind your whole life, or?
No, I started losing my sight when I was 29. I'm 47 now. So.
Wow. What happened?
I have a disease called retinitis pigmentosa. My grandfather had the same disease. It's X-linked, so it's passed along the X chromosome from father to daughter. And so I was my mom's only male offspring, and so I won the lottery in my family. So I got the same disease as my grandpa. It's later onset for me, so started my 20s, 30s. Same for my grandfather, and then it's a progressive disease. So it's been a narrowing of my visual field, and my peripheral vision went away, and then night blindness. Pretty soon, it started that's when what I first noticed was night blindness back in the. I just got divorced. I was at my son's flag football practice, and I got in the van to take off, and my eyes took probably 10 minutes to adjust. I was like, I don't know what's going on. It was black. So.
You weren't expecting it to happen, though? Since
No, I didn't know. It was one of those. You know how you have that family lore that something skips a generation?
Yeah.
That's what this was. That's usually X-linked type genetic disorders are the ones that are from that family lore. So it did skip a generation. My mom didn't really have any sort of symptoms, and it came to me. And so even when I first started I didn't even know to talk to my grandpa about it. I knew my grandpa was blind, but I had no idea that I would have the same disease until after he had passed. And then took me several years of getting misdiagnosed before I finally got diagnosed. And I got diagnosed officially in 2011. I first started getting symptoms like 2005.
Now, there's no treatment, no possible cure, nothing they're working on?
They're starting to do some gene therapy that's allowing people to see like in low light situations. So they're starting to do some things, but it's not very advanced. And the clinical trials are all for people that still have very good vision. And mine I'm down to hand motion only. Fortunately, I was able to finally, after years of kind of I started losing my sight. I'm a single dad. I shared custody with my ex, but I was taking care of my kids 50% of the time. And I'm losing my sight. I can't drive at night, so and this was before Uber was really a thing, and so I'm dealing with that, and I'm working full time. I'm working more than full time. I worked in IT, and I'm doing all of my own accessible technology to adjust to it. I'm doing everything on my own, and I didn't realize that I didn't have to do that. So I get in this deeper and deeper hole. I get bigger and bigger because I'm kind of eating more convenient foods, part of the Western diet, but then on top of that, I'm losing my sight, so I'm not, so all those adjustments, and I finally got to a point to where I was like, I can't do this on my own anymore. So I went through vocational rehabilitation through the state, and I went to a blindness training center. So I started that in 2020 during the pandemic, and I went there and I learned how to use my cane. I kind of taught myself, but I didn't really know how to use my cane, how to use parallel traffic, you're near parallel traffic to cross streets, which doesn't work out here, but it definitely works in the States. Traffic patterns, mobility and orientation is what it's called. I learned Braille. I learned how to use screen readers, cooked a meal blindfolded for 30 plus people from start to finish.
Wow.
Those are some of the things that I had to achieve to finish my program. But then when I was getting close to the end, I was like, the whole thing that it was to turn us back into taxpayers, which is fine and dandy. But I was like, there has to be a better way than me going. I started going back to school. I think I got 2 A's and a B in my classes. I was going to go back and get a teaching degree, switch from IT to teaching blind kids. And I was doing really well, but I was like, why am I doing this? There has to be a different way of life. And I had back in 2014 when I was working IT, I had one of my employees was based in India, and she said, you could live over here like a king for $1,200 on your disability. So I started looking at it, and I had there's a training center in Ho'opono. It's called Ho'opono. It's in Honolulu, and I actually had a little interview with the director there, but Honolulu is so expensive, and so if I went back, I'm going to lose my disability. I'm going to go to work, but then I'll basically be at poverty level in Honolulu to go work at this training center. I was like, where else could I live on what I'm getting on disability in a tropical environment and, have beautiful weather and beautiful beaches? And so I did my research, and Philippines popped up.
Wow.
And so sold my house and came out here. I pretty much put my back against the wall.
Well, that's kind of what I did too. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. So I decided to do that. What's that?
And so it's all working out so far?
So far, yeah. I came out. It's definitely, like all those skills that I talked about learning, they're definitely more applicable in the United States. In a country that has, I was just in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
They're definitely more applicable there than they are in the Philippines.
What were you doing in Hong Kong?
My girlfriend's sister's in OFW. Okay. And so we went to go visit her. I was like, I've never been to Hong Kong. I want to go there. So we went there. I climbed the 268 steps to that big Buddha on Lantau Island.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
Wow,
so,
good for you.
On the way down, my girlfriend, she's in a lot better shape than me. Well, at least I thought, and on the way up, I stopped a few times. It's carrying a lot of weight, and I'm going up there blind. On the way down, it's pretty easy to cruise down steps with the cane because it tells me where the landings are and so forth. And she keeps going, do you want to stop? It's okay if you want to take a break, babe. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. We get down, and she's like, my legs are shaking so bad. So she was trying to use me as an excuse as to why we were going to stop on the way down. But yeah, I'm just trying to.
So you just have a strong heart and everything, and good for you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, fortunately, I'm as big as I am. I don't have any other underlying health problems yet. Knock on wood. So wherever it is, there they go.
Well, with your skills, though, I would think here in the Philippines you could find a side gig online. It makes, like for me, I was doing tutoring English and making an extra $200 a week. And there's so many things you could do online to supplement your disability.
I definitely could, and it's something that I'm looking at right now. I have decided I want to live here. Right now, I am on, I guess, vacation.
Yeah.
I'm still on a what's it, visitor's visa or whatever.
Tourist visa.
Tourist visa. Thank you.
So am I. I've been here 4 years.
So right now, I was in a hurry to get back into working, and right now I'm just kind of enjoying things. And then definitely that's one of the angles that I intend to pursue. There's also a need here to teach blind people. You know, that's one of the things in the Philippines that I see is that you've got, I mean, there's not much available to blind folks here as far as there's no braille on the elevators, there's no braille anywhere, there's no. I've talked to some of them, you know, I've talked to other people and they see blind people being led around sighted guide through the mall or whatever.
But it's not a country for if you're disabled, you know, it can be a real challenge here. I know down at the airport, if you ever fly out of the airport here, there's a bunch of blind guys they bring in and they play music.
Yeah, I gave a guy a big tip when we left for Hong Kong. He was pretty good. Man, that guy has some stamina. He was playing for.
They play for hours, yeah.
Yeah, he was playing for the whole time we were sitting there waiting for our plane, nonstop. So.
Well, I would think that when you've been a person that's had sight and then you lose it, that would be way more difficult than somebody that's born blind and was always blind and didn't know any different.
Yes, I think it is.
Because you're losing something big.
I think, I mean, there's always the other side to it. So, you know, when I was going through training, I talked to a lot of the instructors because my plan was to teach blind people when I was done. So I kind of was asking the other. I'm always an interviewer too. I always ask a lot of questions. So I was like, you know, what are the problems you have sometimes teaching people? And it's teaching visual concepts to people who've never seen, that can be hard. So for example, teaching Excel to someone who's never seen a spreadsheet, that can, or for them to even conceptualize that sometimes can be hard, right? So teaching some of those things that we see as simple, or trying to, how do you describe a color? You know, how do you describe different things to people? So we have an advantage, but we also have a disadvantage. Like all the people, I read Braille like a first grader. You know, I read like 11 words a minute. Whereas, you know, my friend Donna, she's been blind since birth, and she reads 180, I think, words per minute. Super duper fast. But she learned the same as we learned to read print from a young age. She learned it from a young age to read Braille. So she has that. But then, you know, it's the same as here. A lot of people are still sheltered by their family when they're blind. So some people they maybe don't get to develop the same socially sometimes.
Independence, yeah.
And so they may not travel independently the same way I can because they've never had that. So they don't have that same drive sometimes to have that independence, to be able to go out and move around, or just to even be able to move around in here like I did just now. Yeah. You know, I just followed you up here and said, where are you at? But some people, you know, if they haven't had training, or maybe it's out of their comfort zone, they might say, can you guide me up there? You know, for me, I want to have that independence. I want to.
Well, I think it'd be really easy to fall into depression and isolation and just, you know, stay home and not go anywhere and do anything, and self-pity, you know. Self-imposed
isolation, a lot of it is, because you don't have to be that way. You don't have to, but that's part of the thing that they teach us too at the training school I went to. Is they have a class on top of all those other classes. They have it's called positive philosophy of blindness. So it's kind of getting a positive mindset about who you are and what you can achieve, because there's kind of lowered expectations for people that are blind.
Oh yeah.
And I don't need to have those lowered expectations. I can do anything I want. So that's part of what made me decide, even though it's definitely harder to be independent here, that's one of the things that made me go, I can go to the Philippines. I can do anything I want. I don't have to stay in the States where ADA makes things easy for me. I can go to the Philippines and I can problem solve and I can figure it out if I need to. If that's what I want to do, I can go anywhere. I could go to the deep depths of Africa if I want.
And did you find an apartment or house here easily, or?
I did. I actually met a guy online before I came out, and he walked around with me. And that's why I went to Angeles, because that's where he was at. So he helped me. But it would be the same as if I connected with anybody here. Yeah. So, and then once I moved here, we found an apartment within the first week.
And what are you paying?
Just over $400.
Wow.
So
So, well, would you get I haven't been in New Mexico in a long time, so what's a similar apartment in Albuquerque going for now?
A townhouse in Albuquerque for that, or in Phoenix, which is where I've been the last 22 years. My townhouse in Phoenix would easily be $1,500 to $1,900 a month, probably, because it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, up and down. It's on a nice property with a security guard. Nice quiet area. It's beautiful.
And how are you getting around the city and stuff? Do you have a car, or you have somebody driving you?
100% tricycle.
Huh.
Yep. At least for now. So
that's what I did when I first got here too. It was so easy. They're everywhere, and they run. 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll still be out there.
So that part has been a challenge, because I had a driver when I got to Angeles. I hired a driver. One of my first cab drivers. I was like, how much would it cost you to be my driver? 6 days a week, whatever. And so I paid him way too much money. But I had a driver for 3 months. It wasn't until I got here that I realized, wow, I can really do this getting out of the trikes, and it's super cheap.
Oh yeah, you just get their phone number of like 4 or 5 trike drivers. Yep. You just call one after another, and they pick you up and take you where you want. I had one I hired for the whole day when I first got here. I think I gave him $10, and he was overthrilled with that.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And they're nice guys for the most part. They're not very nice when you're crossing the street. I definitely feel like a screaming speed bump trying to be a pedestrian here.
Yeah.
But the trike drivers are pretty nice. I think sometimes my girlfriend will pay them less than I would.
Oh yeah,
because she's a Filipina.
They always do that.
And they get mad. But she says that she can see like scowls on their face sometimes.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. Why do you tip so much?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if it helps somebody else out, I don't mind.
So I usually 2 questions I've been asking everybody. It's like, what's like the hardest thing you've ever had to go through in your life? With you, I assume it's going blind. I mean, can't think of anything harder than that.
It was either my blindness or my divorce. Those are two of my hardest things. Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you in life? You ever had something that happened that was like a turning point in your life, something really, really good that changed everything for you?
The birth of my first child, my son. Yeah.
Well, I mean, aside from children.
Well, I just said that my divorce was one of the hardest things in my life, but I would say my divorce. I depended on my ex-wife emotionally a lot, for things, and I became such a strong father and man the moment that I didn't have her to lean on.
Oh.
And I think I became an excellent father, and I definitely became a grown-up. It was a shame that it was when I was 28. I was a provider. I worked and I turned over my money, but I wasn't whole yet. I wasn't a whole grown man the way that I became after my divorce.
It forced you to be independent.
It forced me to be super independent, because we got together when I was 19. I was still a boy,
Oh, wow.
So I was just fresh out of high school, and she was still in high school, and so we kind of leaned on each other. We kind of held each other up that way. And then as soon as she was out of the picture, I had to figure things out, and I did, and it made me super strong. I think if I hadn't had that experience right before I started losing my sight, I don't think that I would have been able to deal with it the way I dealt with it. I think I probably would have gone on disability a lot earlier. I worked blind for many, many years, and the last 3 years of my job, I couldn't really see anything on my computer, and I didn't really know how to use a screen reader, but I still worked, and I still performed at a high level. I survived many layoffs, even though I was at a severe disadvantage to my colleagues. But it was that moment, that key moment, that I was like, I need to be a better guy for my kids. I need to be a better man. I love my kids. I knew how much I loved my kids, but I didn't always put the focus on them that I should. And then I also started focusing on work-life balance. I realized at one point that I wasn't spending the time with my kids that I wanted to. And fortunately I did, because now they're all grown and they don't have a lot of time for me. But I know that I went to their games, and I went to the geography bee, and I went on field trips, and I did all of that stuff. And I made sure that they were a priority. And so I know my kids always know that I'll be there for them.
And so what did your family think about, you deciding to move to the Philippines? I mean, when you broke that news to them, how'd they take that?
Everybody was super supportive.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
I think that they know who I am as a man. They knew who I was as far as my skills. They had seen me grow while I was in the training center. They'd seen my independent living skills grow. And it's something that I first talked to them all about, like, hey, I might go to India someday when I go on disability. I started that conversation back in 2014. So when I told them, I think there was maybe some trepidation by some of them, but it's just the same fear that anybody would have if I was sighted or not, which is something that I've worked for. I've worked to be looked at as an equal. I don't want anybody's pity, because like I told you when we were talking, I think before we started filming, for me, my blindness is just a characteristic. Now, it may be a big characteristic, but it's just part of who I am. It's part of the whole being, right? I'm blind, but I also have curly hair,
I got a question for you as a blind person.
Yeah.
When you dream, do you dream in color, and do you have vision in your dream?
Oh, yeah. That's a question we get asked a lot, actually. So I do still dream. I think because I'm visual, I don't know what it would be like if I never had vision. But I a lot of times in my dreams, I'm not blind. And then I realize, oh, I'm not blind. And then I'm like, oh, I'm super blind. So suddenly I'm like, feeling around for my cane. Like, I was just moving around totally normal in my dream. And then I realize I don't have my cane, and I feel super naked, I guess.
Wow.
So yeah, the dreams are still very vivid. I can still see people. My mom passed away in 2016. I can still see her face sometimes in my dreams. And
You look forward to your dreams?
do I look forward to my
Yeah.
dreams?
Just part of life, I guess.
They're just part of life. Yeah. It's not like they're so vivid that it feels like I'm living another life where I'm not blind. And I don't feel any need to change who I am. Fortunately, I've got the correct mindset that I get frustrated now and again, but I don't feel sorry for myself that I'm blind, really.
Now, have your
just part of my
doctor
life.
said that there is some kind of hope in the future? Like, I've seen things on, Discovery Channel and stuff where they had like implants so you could see. And I mean, is there anything on the horizon that
I think there will be, but I don't know if it'll be within my lifetime. There have been people who have completely lost their sight to retinitis pigmentosa, and then they've had an implant put in to where they could see kind of like a pixelized picture of maybe their wife or something. I've seen that. A lot of people can get cornea transplants and things of that nature. This is a retina disease. And I didn't even know this until maybe last year, but I didn't even realize that the retina is actually brain tissue.
Well, I knew that.
Yeah, I had no idea that the retina, so it's really brain surgery.
So there's no such thing as an eye transplant?
Not that I know of, no. I don't know if it's because it's so intricately involved with the brain, but not that I know of. But there are cornea transplants, but
Yeah, I
the
knew
cornea is
that.
a different part.
Yeah, I've known
So people
have
are
had
always like,
those.
"Can't you get a retinal transplant?" Not that I've heard of. So,
Well,
and that's the other thing is I used to be involved with a blindness organization that was a lot of people kind of, I want to say, like in a holding pattern, waiting for a cure. And I was like that for a while. Like when is the cure going to happen? So I could sit in my house and wait for a cure, or I could go out and live life and see Dumaguete and go to Hong Kong and and do these things that not everybody even does that's sighted.
yeah.
or I could sit around and wait for a cure and put my energy there. And I would rather put my energy towards living my life while I have it.
Live your life, and who knows? Like something might come along, and great if it does. If it doesn't, you've dealt with.
If it doesn't, I've made my peace, and I'm good. So.
Wow. Well, you know, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And
thanks for having me, man.
Hope we get a chance to get to know each other better. You know,
I hope
First
so.
time I met you, and
Yeah.
as far as we haven't crossed paths before.
Yeah, I've been here for over a month. I've been looking for you, but I haven't heard your
Just
voice
ask
yet.
around. I'm always here. But thank you so much, and best of luck with everything.
Well,
Thanks for
you.
watching, everybody. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.